Welcome to Curito Connects. I'm your host, Jenn, and I've been conversing with friends around the world about life challenges and impactful moments. Conversations on this platform look at answering the questions, how we overcome challenges, and how our experiences shape who we are and the work we do today. I hope this work can inspire you on your own personal and individual journey. Let's dive right in. Hello. So my guest today is Christina Maningo, founder of MYWELLNESS, a health and wellness platform based out of Manila, Philippines, where Christina teaches yoga, myofascial nutrition, and coaches individuals to achieve a better mind and body connection. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Jen. How are you? Happy to be here.
So Christina and I met in Manila back in 2018, and I'm so grateful that she was open to collaborating with me when I was just starting out in 2019. She trusted me enough to fly out to Taipei, where we hosted a weekend myofascial workshop. We were hoping to do more last year, but obviously due to the pandemic, that got all canceled. And hopefully going forward, we can perhaps do some virtual events, and I don't know, when travel opens up, right? We can meet in person again. Christina is a free-spirited Asian American California native, a former college gymnast, marathon runner, event planner, loving wife, daughter, sister, and mom to her pup, Macy. So Christina has spent her early years as an inspiring gymnast, which taught her the importance of developing habits. So I won't give away too much, but Christina, I'm really excited to have you talk more about habits and how that has helped you in times of difficulty and how it applies to, who you are today and the work you do.
Well, excited to share here. I mean, it has been kind of a lifelong journey. Little did I know the things that I did when I was younger would be so applicable to what I do today. Having gone through many a career changes, as you have said, to where I'm at today with landing back in health coaching and teaching yoga, and really kind of where my heart is.
So should we go as far back as you can remember, your earliest memories of building habits?
Yeah. So, gosh, definitely, of course, my memories now of them being habits, but back then I didn't think they were. It's just what you did, right? So, like as a kid, I started doing gymnastics when I was 9, and it was actually all sports. It was constantly doing many different sports, but I finally, when I did gymnastics, it landed, and it was the one for me. So that's something that I teach about habits too. If there's things that you don't like, then why are you forcing yourself to make it a habit, right? So I tell people that all the time. If you hate broccoli, why are you forcing yourself to eat broccoli? No reason. And same thing with gym, working out. So I did many sports, and once my parents put me in gymnastics, I loved it. And so that became something I was passionate about, and I was happy to go and build that habit.
What was the hook about gymnastics for you, right? Like, so you said you tried out a lot of things. I know you have an older brother. Was it older brother or younger?
Yes.
So growing
Older.
up with a brother, obviously you're exposed to, there's a lot of movement and activity happening, right? And I guess, did you choose, you said your parents took you to a gymnastics class. So it wasn't so much like you were like, hey, that looks fun. Mom and dad, I want to try this. Was it more just like, we want to put Christina in some extracurricular activity. Let's try gymnastics, right? And then, what clicked for you going in there and going, this is so fun. I really enjoy this. I really enjoy, being on the balance beam or, moving your body in a certain way versus playing a team sport.
I think, yeah, I was a really hyper kid, and I was always bouncing around. My parents bought me mats, and I was already doing gymnastics before I was in gymnastics. So, I was always doing cartwheels and things. And I think that's when my parents were like, okay, we need to put her in that sport, because I did. Yeah. Individual sports, definitely I excelled more than group sports. And I think if you just, now looking back at all the personality tests I've done, it's yeah, that it pertains to the personality, I think, who you are. And once I did it, once I went into class, I was like, oh my God, I love this. I loved being upside down. Just the idea of being upside down, I think, and flipping around was exciting to me. So that's how I got into gymnastics. And then it becomes like, then once you become passionate about something, it it's not a chore anymore to do it. And, I went from going once or twice a week to instantly, the coaches were like, we want her on the team. So it became, at 9 years old, you're going for just some extracurricular activity to going every day for 3 hours a day. And, well, I have Asian mom. So of course, yes, we're going to do this, especially that's why I tried everything, dance, everything. And she's like, yes, we will do this. And so that became routine doing that. And then all habits and routine kind of followed suit, because when you're going to gymnastics for 3 hours a day, you have to have a plan. You have to have a schedule, because there's no other way to get things done. And that's sort of how this habit building worked for me.
So would you say that your whole, I guess we can call it your whole gymnastics career, right? Because it went from 9 at the age of 9 all the way to college. You were basically at a, was it Division 1 or 2 or 3?
Yeah, Division One.
Right,
Division
you were a
One.
Division 1
Mm-hmm.
gymnast.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, I mean, this is fun to talk about too because of the recent the U.S. team, right? The girls who, was it yesterday? They went to court and talked about the
Yes.
whole incident. And as a former gymnast, in this period of time, uh, did you at any point want to quit? Right, like, so I guess, I don't know. I'm trying to find the words to shape this question, but just, in terms
Mm-hmm.
of the difficulties of, or the fatigue of, this is your day in and your day out. What was your end goal of, practicing basically 7 days a week for hours on end and bending your body and exerting your body in, and then, but you said habits, right? So was it always a smooth ride? Did you have injuries too, right? Did you encounter failed attempts to make it on the varsity team, or how did you overcome those moments?
Wow. Okay. This is a very loaded question and a very, very good question, because somebody, as you're saying this, I'm thinking about the answer and I never thought of it this way. But I will
Okay.
tell you, did I did I ever want to quit? Oh my goodness. Almost every day. We talked about it almost every day, no joke, which sounds pretty ridiculous. So not many people make it to the level of college. All my friends quit. Most do. The year I graduated high school to go to university, um, there were actually 7 of us. Prior to that, there may have been one or none in the entire team that actually go on to college. That's how grueling it is. You think about quitting every day because it is intense. Sport at that level is intense. I was riddled with injuries constantly. So I was always in pain, always had taking anti-inflammatories. Advil was a regular thing for me. I had my wrist taped, my ankles taped. I had major reconstructive surgery when I was 13, 3 surgeries on my ankle. And I still, yeah, but it's interesting what keeps you going. I'll tell you, the biggest drive, probably the biggest driving factor, was that I loved it. I loved the actual gymnastics. The training part I could do without, but obviously you have to train if you want to be good. It was, you know, being at a level and competing, um, and actually doing the sport was actually, it was amazing. I'm super competitive too. Um, so that I think was the driving factor. But my gosh, there's so many things that prevent you, or that make you want to quit, and a lot of people did quit. But I also think it was that fear of quitting, fear, I guess, regret. I guess I didn't want to regret quitting, because I saw my friends drop off one after the other. You're in high school, you want to, hang out with boys, you want to go to parties. I didn't do any of that, hardly, because of, gymnastics. But at the same time, sport kept me in line from getting in trouble. Most gymnasts are academically do well because you're rigid and you don't have time to play around, and you go and you have to do your, you've got this. And there's something about that too. As a kid, we kind of like that discipline a little bit. I mean, too much just can push you over the edge, but too much freedom can also make you fall off the deep end, right? I'm trying to think of like what you said a couple of things. So did I ever have injury? Did I ever want to quit? Of course. Oh, what it is so there were things in place that prevented me from doing that. Friends that were still there. So that's why your community is super important when it comes to, habits. Having a passion and love for it. Also, not wanting to let my parents down was another one. I mean, there were definitely internal and external forces that kept me. And I think it's important to have both. A lot of times I'm okay with having external forces. A lot of people say in order for something to be sustained, it has to come from within. I do believe that, but it can start as an external um, kind of rule or regulation or something that, or external motivator. It can start there, and then, but if you never have that passion, like I had friends who just absolutely just did not like it, but they were in it because of their parents, and you could just see it. And those were the ones who ended up quitting. Yeah. So you got to have both. You got to have an internal motivation and an external motivation.
Right. So why did you not continue in the field of gymnastics after you graduated from university?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Well, I mean,
That's a really good.
I'm going on with the theme here because we're talking about habits, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't go into the nitty gritty of like, what was your day to day basically? I mean, you lived and breathed gymnastics basically, right? And then you had family time and then school. You had to excel in school, but I guess the end goal was probably to make it on the U.S. Olympic team, perhaps, right? I mean, you all went all the way to Division 1 and did gymnastics there for another 4 years, right?
Yeah.
And then you hung up your what was your and also what was your what do they call it? Like, were you a floor person or a horse person or a
Oh,
pole, like
event.
a
Which event?
event? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, what do I? Yeah.
There's vault, bars, beam, and floor for women, and bars was definitely my favorite. And I was probably best at vault score wise. But bars was also that was like my second highest. Yeah. So, but I liked everything. I liked all four, and I competed in all four. Like some people specialize when
Wow.
they go to college.
Yeah.
Um, I wasn't. I'm not to say I was great and I was good in all of them, but you know, I was decent enough to compete in every event, as opposed to being like the top in one. I was near the top on all of them because I liked them all, and so I think I had the passion for that. I think, and why did I not continue with gymnastics? Yeah, I will tell you. So I did coach younger girls in that was like my job when I was in college, and I also my last year, so I had one more year of school, but I was done with my 4 years of gymnastics. I also was the kind of like the student coach, and which was really fun too. But I come to realize that, yeah, gymnastics, I love the sport. I like to do it. And coaching, I like coaching too, but I just didn't see a future for me in that. There were other interests that I had that I wanted to pursue. So I think that's why I didn't. And so it's a big deal for gymnasts when we finish college because it's not a sport you can do after college. It's not like basketball, tennis, golf, where you can pick it up recreationally. You physically have to be in tip-top shape in order to do gymnastics. It's not something you do, out with friends. So, I mean, even a year after competing, even 6 months, it's amazing how quickly, the body loses its strength and you can't do anything anymore. So it's a big shock actually a big transition for most gymnasts. It's kind of like losing something, like, I would say
Yeah.
losing a limb, but it's literally like losing a big part of your life. It was really hard, actually, really hard. Especially when I'm telling you that, like, that was the foundation for habits in my life. A lot of gymnasts like kind of lose it, and we have to figure something out. And this is that's how I got into yoga.
Ah.
Yeah, because I needed to do something with my body. And that was the one thing that was very similar in many aspects.
So that was when
So
your yoga journey started
yes. Hmm.
after. So was that a hard decision you had to make, or you recognized by senior year in college, you're like, my career here is this is probably it. Like I'm retiring after I graduate, and well, and transition into, like you said, you had other interests. So transition into other things that you were curious about and wanted to pursue a career in.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I always knew there was an end date. And to be honest with you, remember how I said that, when I was in high school and junior high, all we talked about quitting every single day, no joke. In college, it was more fun because there was we actually worked out less in college because of NCAA requirements. Um, so we had more free time, but at the same time, the body is aging. So remember I was saying I had injuries? Well, I was actually looking forward to my senior year because I was in pain constantly, and I didn't want to be taking drugs, painkillers all my life. But when the day came, when it was my last meet, it was really heartbreaking to for something to be cut off. It's not your choice, it's cut off for you. I think that's the hard part.
Right. Because you
Yeah.
can't, the body does not lie.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's nowhere to go after that. You're kind of like, there's no like middle ground. Like I said, like with tennis or like I look at these other sports, I'm like, wow, why didn't I take up that sport? Because I could still be doing it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, then going forward, so obviously that foundation really built you on habits. So you clearly applied that with everything else you did afterwards too, right? With your career, with work. So how did you kind of navigate that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think, back then, I think I never really associated it with habit building at all. It was just what you do, what you did. And I think it's also like lessons learned through sport. I think sport is so important um, for everybody to do because it teaches you so many lessons. It teaches you, how to get outside your comfort zone. It teaches you how to time manage. It teaches you so many things about yourself as well. And I think that's what sort of helped me in moving forward. I mean, if you look at professional athletes or collegiate athletes, there's definitely this actually not say level of success, but ability to succeed because that you're so used to getting outside your comfort zone that you're okay taking risks. And I think and trying different things.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's kind of helped me in life. And then of course, the particulars about sports is like with gymnastics, all you're thinking about is nutrition and what you eat and weight. You're constantly getting weighed every single day,
Did
which
you,
is a good and a bad thing.
well, yeah, did you as a female have weight, like, or body image issues during that time, right?
Oh,
Cuz
100%.
right,
And
cuz that's
yeah, I don't know. I might know a handful of women, girls who didn't, and that's it. Everyone else had body dysmorphia. I mean, I thought I was fat my whole life when I was, 80, 90 pounds and a teenager, I mean, that's just unbelievable. For sure. I was just lucky enough not to have an eating disorder, anorexia or bulimia. A lot of people around me, I didn't, but I definitely had body image issues. And so, which made me so obsessed about food and what I put into my body. every single trend in the book, the fat-free diet, the carb-free, every diet you can think of, I've tried them all when I was younger, and into adulthood, but then I learned a little bit more how to balance that out, post gymnastics, actually.
Wow. So I'm just curious in terms of, now we're kind of talking about your early 20s, right? You finish college and you're like, okay,
Hmm.
I'm in the into the world now, and I can leave behind my gymnastics career and the habits I built there, and I can create new habits, right? So what did you end up choosing to do, like career-wise, and how you chose to, again, I guess, reinvent yourself, right? Because you're now no longer Christina the gymnast, you're now Christina something else, right? And then,
Hmm.
that took another chunk, a few decades, then where you are now, right? Which is doing what you do today with My Wellness. So if you can kind of take us through that.
Yeah, so I went through a every decision that you make, I think there's a reason why, and there's a learning in it. So I think right after, of course I was into, so I didn't go into being a coach, but I wanted to be a physical therapist. So right in line with, still connecting to the body because I found it really interesting. I studied that, and but then when I graduated, I felt this is where personality tests are amazing. I wish I had done my e-disc profile back then, because if you look at it now, you can see why I chose to, like, I felt handcuffed by that. I felt held down because I thought, oh, I can't be a physical therapist. I can't just do that all day every day for the rest of my life. I'm going to be so bored. So I needed some creativity. I needed to do things, make things. And so I felt like I wanted to get into the creative field. So then I went into the fashion industry. So I was there for, gosh, how many years is that? 8 or 9 years in the fashion industry. And I kind of bumped around between different areas of the fashion industry. But I enjoyed it. But then I also got bored there. And, I went and I did my thing. I've learned, as what I always do is I go into whatever industry it is, and then I dive in and try to learn as much as I can. I'm one of those knowledge seekers. I need to get as much information as I can. I just need to know more, because the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and you keep trying to learn more and more and more, which is what I did. And then I just realized it just wasn't that exciting for me. Like, I wanted to be creative, but I knew I'm not the designer. I'm not going to be, top designer, Calvin Klein or whoever. It just wasn't exciting for me anymore if I couldn't be that person. So then I went into hospitality because I was already doing that. I loved planning events. Again, it was creativity, and I could do it, and I could be good at it. And you don't have to be Calvin Klein to be, um, the best at it. And so I went into that field for a bit, and that's what brought me overseas to Asia. Um, but then I realized, I was there in China for 3 years, and although I enjoyed it, I also got bored again. It wasn't something that lit a fire inside me like gymnastics did in my youth. And
I'm so
so
I'm so
yeah,
glad.
okay.
I'm No, I was gonna say I'm so glad that you're saying this, because partially I relate to that storyline too, and I'm sure others who are listening might think, like, relate to it in terms of, you tried, you did corporate, you tried this, you tried that, you went all in, and then you said it. You're like, but I got bored. Like, it wasn't for me. And so you just switched, and you just kept switching until you find something that you're really passionate about, which, like you said, was that fire when and you know what that felt like, right? Because you had gymnastics. So
Hmm.
that's, that when you're doing what you enjoy doing, it doesn't feel like work anymore, and you love it. Like, you love what you're doing. So I'm really glad that you're, continue. But I just wanted to point that out, that, like, I'm so happy that you're saying this, because it's true. Like, it's okay. Because, I think, especially for this generation, or I mean, guess people around my age, it's like, there are a lot of people who have jumped careers a lot. It's not like, I've been in this career for 10 years. It's like, well, what have you done? And it's like, well, where do you want me to start? Like, I've done this for a year. I did that for 2 years. I freelanced here, right there. It's not so black and white on a resume, and it's okay, right? So I
Yes.
just want to point that out, and so I mean, continue.
No, it's actually a really important thing because, you know, people in my generation didn't do that so much. So I'm 50, right? I just turned 50 this year. And so we didn't do that. Everyone went into their career and they're a very stable career. Doctor, lawyer, architect, that's what people did. And I was just lucky enough to have parents that were understanding and surprisingly, with a Korean mom not beating me, with a stick, telling me no, that I have to be a doctor. Um, so it was just my mom's big thing was just whatever you do it 100%. And, and that's how you're going to know if it's for you or not. And so I think that's what I did. I mean, I worked my butt off in the hospitality industry and it brought me, and I did enjoy it. I really loved the creative side of it. But, there were other things that outweighed the benefits. And, it was just burnt out and it just wasn't for me. And so then I took a break from that. And all the while, I had gymnastics in the background, or yoga in the background. That was my stress reliever. And I just dove right into that. And then we moved to Singapore for my husband's job. And I had the luxury where I could do yoga for 2 hours a day, every day. And, I learned a lot about myself. And then, I ended up becoming a teacher because, again, if you look at my personality test, that's why I urge people go and do a personality test. Trust me, you can save yourself a few career changes.
Do you have a recommendation for which career test to do? I mean, if we can share it in the link below as well, so people can use the one that you would recommend.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple. Okay. There's one that I did. The title is Do What You Are. I'll never forget it. Do what you are. That
Okay.
literally spells it out. And it is based on Myers-Briggs. But what I liked about it is because I had taken Myers-Briggs several times and came up with different scores different times because it really depends on how you answer the question. Are you
Right.
answering for who you are or who you think you are or who you want to be, right? So that's why these tests don't always work. But why this book worked is because you take the test and then you at the end it's like if this is your personality type, these 3 things or these 10 things are like what motivate you and drive you. So that's how I found that. And that's how I knew that I needed to do something manual, something it was telling me to be a police officer. It was telling me to be a chef or a cook, something like making something or doing something physical, right? Um, so that's why I think also why yoga plays a big part in my life because it's something physical, right? The other personality test I definitely think I just did this one. It's called the E-DISC,
Okay.
extended disc profile. It's like a 30-page personality test. And the reason why it's great is because it's your personality outwardly and internally. Because sometimes we project something that, is because of our surroundings, for example,
Oh, that's
like,
true. Yeah.
yeah, right? Because of the way you're raised, you don't speak out. You may have a personality that is just like really loud and boisterous and you want to speak out, but if you're raised to not do that. Yeah. So that's a great one. And it really, wow, I'm telling you, it spells out like these things. The reason why it's great to see it's like these are your strengths. This is what it talks about is these things, it's what comes easy to you, what requires more energy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to
And
put it.
right. And it's so true. I'm like, yeah, I can do this, but wow, yes. And so I realized some of the other things that some of the other parts of my career, even some of the things that I'm doing now. Oh, now this is why this is so hard. This is why I resist this so much because it's just not in my personality. So I have to put out extra effort. So it's good to look out because then you can choose things that you're always going to have to do things that require more
That you don't
energy than
like.
others. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That you're not like, oh, I don't really like this. But if you can know that beforehand and choose a career that, passion that brings more of that flow. That's why there's people that when they find their passion, they're in their flow and they're like, oh, this, feels so amazing, right? Which is how I feel right now.
Yeah, so you found your flow in Singapore. I mean, that was a jump start of this flow that
Yeah,
you're in, right? So which
absolutely.
involved teaching, it involved being creative, it involved working with people. So from yoga, and you got deeper into your studies, and then you guys moved to Manila afterwards, and so
Yes,
you just continued that in Manila.
exactly. And it's and in Manila is where I found I needed another layer. So yoga gave me that physical part. It gave me the physical part, so the physical action. It gave me, I never in a million years thought I would be a teacher because I was like, I don't like being in front of people, but it turns out that is a strength of mine. But, um, again, it could be environment, could be, who knows what. But once I, was thrown into that, I was like, okay, yeah. So I always say, you never know what your strengths are, and you got to try many different things. Um, but then from yoga, then I was getting into that I'm bored stage again. So I'm okay, I need to know more. I need to know more about the body, right? It was now so that's why I went into integrative nutrition to learn more about. I needed to know holistically what is how to be healthy, because that was just a passion of mine. I knew what yoga could do for me physically and mentally, but there's an added component. What you put into your body, what you fuel your body with, is important as well. So, and that added that little bit of challenge that I needed, right? That little bit of, and it's a never ending um, area where things are constantly changing. There's constantly new studies, and that is a part of my personality that fuels me. So that's how all this kind of came together. And I thought I was moving on from gymnastics or gymnastics. Keep saying gymnastics. I thought I was moving on from yoga because I was like, oh, I'm kind of bored with yoga now. But I realized no, I just needed it's always going to be a part of me. I needed a little bit more. And so, the thing that brightens my day, every week, twice a week, I'm still teaching yoga classes online, and I will never say no to those, because I love it so much. And it gives me an opportunity to share what I love, my passion about fascia, the body movement. Because I think, a lot of people don't know much about their own bodies in that sense. And, of course, some people don't want to geek out in the science, but at least I can give them tools on how to, feel good.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to circle back to talking about two things. So one is how so far what we've talked about, how again how the habit really plays a role in all this, right? So we
Hmm.
want to like reiterate that, and then also how you apply your foundation of habit building to transcending that to your clients when you work with them.
Right. Yes. So the thing of habits, the thing of being, so with my clients, people come to me because they want longevity. They want to live a long life. And of course, these days, what everyone wants is a quick fix. But I always have to tell people and remind them that you didn't get here overnight. Most of my clients are 35 to 50, and you have years and years of getting to this point. So, why would you then expect to reverse that in a month or 3 months for that matter? And so for me, I said, it's a lifetime. For me, I've built these habits over a lifetime. I've learned so much about food, myself, eating, exercise, the mental aspect, all parts of wellness and overall well-being. But not to say, not to make people feel like, oh my gosh, I can't do it because, you have 50 years of that or 40 years of that. No, that's just what I have. But it does take time just to know that, get to know yourself and build these habits little by little. That's the most important thing, is accepting, and if you want longevity, that it's the little things that you do repeatedly that get you there. Like, and I always use the example of brushing your teeth. I don't know a person who would ever dream of, oh, I'm just too tired, I'm not going to brush my teeth, I'm just going to walk out of the house. I don't know anyone who's going to do that, right? And you don't even think about it anymore because there's no resistance. You get up, it's a part of your habit. You go and you brush your teeth, like the first thing you do. But look at kids. Look at what parents have to do to get kids to brush their teeth because they didn't have that habit yet. So it takes time to get into it. And, like I'm not a parent, but I know a lot of parents who are, all the little things that they get, and they're like, my kid brushed their teeth for 15 seconds. I'm good with that. And then it gets later and then longer and longer, to whatever it takes to get there. And it's the same thing with us. We have to cut ourselves some slack and be okay with the little things, like with movement. I tell people be okay with doing 1 minute of exercise every day. If you want to build a habit, it's got to be reachable. It's got to be just outside your comfort zone. Do 1 minute every day. And then guess what? It's a no-brainer. You get up, you brush your teeth, do the 1 minute, then let's go on to 5 minutes or whatever your next, your next level is. And the same thing goes for exercise, for food. That's one of the biggest things with regards to habit is that it's a lifestyle for the rest of our life. There's no end goal.
No, there is no end goal. Do you tell your clients to read Atomic Habits?
Oh, it is that book is a game changer. Anyone who's read that, who's listening now, I'm sure can raise their hand to that. So well put, so well articulated, and lots of statistics in there. So if you love the statistics, actually just did a post about that today, talking about, I even give an example, like the British Olympic team, cycling team. They were mediocre and they were horrible for like 100 years. And they brought in a new coach who's like, look, let's just try to improve 1%. Like, let's try to improve 1% in all these different areas. So, the type of clothing that they're wearing, even to the point of like, so the seats that they use, something that's more comfortable, even to the massage gels that they use for recovery in their muscles, the smallest things. Can we just move the needle just a little bit? But when you add that all up, it becomes a lot. So it's like if you improve 1%, this is from the book, if you improve 1% each day for 365 days, you will be 37 times better at that task at the end of that year. 37 times. 1%. What's 1%? 1 minute exercise every day. So it's pretty amazing. And yes, I do firmly follow and believe everything that James Clear has in
Yeah,
that
actually,
book. Yeah,
it is a good book on habits for sure.
it is. And it's I mean, when you hear about it too, a lot of it seems like common sense. Um,
But it's the application, right?
yes, it is.
Like we're sitting here talking about it, people are listening to it, but it's the application. You have to do it.
Exactly. And this is why, the tips, this is why coaches are so important. That's one thing that nowadays people are more willing to accept help. In the past, people my generation, like, or older, it's like, suck it up, pull up your bootstraps and just do it. Muscling through or believing that it's willpower. Well, it's way beyond willpower. The people that we say are good at willpower, they're just good at setting themselves up for success. So, they don't have, if you're trying to eat well, they don't have all these cookies and chips and things in the house because they know they'll be tempted. That's not their willpower isn't not eating it. They don't have it in front of them, so they won't eat it. So, having a coach is a good thing to help support you in getting there and doing these things that seem so silly, but yet we can't seem to do it, right?
Yeah, totally. I am curious though, how do you up I mean, I keep going back to habits because that was
Yeah.
the topic choice you picked out for this episode.
Yes.
But in terms of and I know why you picked it, but when we talk about, different challenges that we encounter, right, throughout our lives. And it could be dealing with failure, dealing with fear, dealing, whatever it is. How can we use habit as a way to apply and, change that mindset when we're approached with something like, uh, you know, a death, a death in the family, or, you were just diagnosed with uh, disease or cancer, and how do you face that in terms of, like you said, building up those little habits so that you can, or overcome those feelings or overcome those emotions, and
Okay. So can be in a couple depends on how you see
how
it
you
or how
approach
you,
it. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so if you like in terms of, for example, if something, well, I'll approach it something like this. If something um happens in your life, like this is what usually happens and why people like throw their habits to the side is, for example, something with work comes up, or like I won't go, we'll talk about like the major tragedies later, but like if something comes up, there's always an excuse, or I've got an appointment now, so sorry I can't work out, or I've got this or that, or all these different reasons we make excuses for why we can't do it. Well, first of all, it's probably because that habit wasn't established. Because if it was, it would be non-negotiable. It's like going to the bathroom, brushing your teeth. You do it. You just squeeze and you find time somewhere else. You squeeze it in, right? So, and
Is that the same?
go
Sorry, is
ahead.
that the same thing as calling it a priority? Is a habit a priority? Right? Because sometimes it's, people will say like, well, you didn't prioritize it. That's why. Like if it, like you said, if it's not important, if it was important to you, you would have prioritized it.
Yeah. Okay. So, yo, that's a loaded question too, because yes, I agree with that. I agree with that because someone did give me a swift kick once. When people say they don't have time, this is a hard truth. Someone said to me, and I actually got mad at her at first until I realized she was absolutely 100% right. She goes, change the words, I don't have time for that, to, it's just not that important to me. And that is, I was like, no, it's important for me to exercise every day, but I just don't have time. Really? So what did you put in front? So yes, that is number one. Yes, absolutely. There's that. And the thing with the habits, remember where I was saying that those habits probably weren't established. Well, if your habits aren't aligned with your values, then you're never going to get there. You're always going to be fighting. There's always going to be resistance. They have to be in line with your values. Like, where do you want to be? I want to be, 100 years old and be able to walk, not have any issues, or whatever it is that whatever your values are, like your health values. And you have to think, is this action I'm taking right now supporting where I want to be? So, for example, I'm tired. I want to rest. Okay, absolutely. There are times when you need to know, I need to rest. My body needs to rest. But in this instance, is that truly the case? Or is it the value of the identity that you're trying to get away from pulling you down? Like, are you really tired, or do you, because there's people that, overwork themselves. They need to take a break. But then there's a lot of us that use that as an excuse, right? Um, I'm overworked, I'm too busy, I'm this and that. So that's where, your values come into play with regards to the habits. And I think that is probably one of the biggest points where I see people are able to make shifts to change, to adopt that new identity, or they're not, and they just want to stay where they're at, really.
Yeah, I think that that's a good way to sum it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really about your habits and your values being in alignment. So this is why you got to, before you start um, making goals. Well, you can. Okay, I want to lose 30 pounds. Well, why do you want to lose 30 pounds? Well, because doesn't everybody? I want to look good. Why do you want to look good? And then you go down that list of why, and what is the root cause? What is really driving you to get there? And that is probably one of the most important things to do if you want to establish habit. Because if you don't know why you're doing that habit, it's not going to stick. It's not going to stick. So that's the important thing. And my clients hate this, but I always say we got to go down that why 5 times. Why, and then then you'll get to the root cause. And once you know that, that's what your motivation, your drive is, and that's what will get you to get over that hump. So like getting out of situations where you've got, like what you're saying, like some tragedy, like how are you able to still not go off the deep end and stay focused? And it's also this concept of something is better than nothing. So we feel we put such a high standard on ourselves that we have to do this thing, every day, or like I said, working out is the easiest example. But if you can't do that today, don't do nothing, do something. I'm going to do 1 minute of exercise every single day. If, there's some tragedy in my family and, I have to take care of my mom, and, what my mom was sick last year, but every single day I got in movement because I knew I needed it for my health and peace of mind. It wasn't long, and I meditated every day. It wasn't long, but 1 to 5 minutes of both every single day. And that's something that's important. I hope that people take away from this, that something is better than nothing. We always set our goals for the short term too high and for the long term too low. So in the short term, be okay with something small every day.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. It's almost important to also recognize that intention. So you said when your mom was sick last year, you didn't break that routine or the habit of working out and meditating, even though it might have been 5 instead of your usual 20 minutes. But you did it. You consistently did it. You shortened the time, but your intentions were there, right? You're like, I'm sitting here meditating for 5 minutes, even though I would like it to be 20, but I'm here. I'm present in this space doing this. And I think that intention is also quite key when you're applying it to the habits and the priorities and the values, which is all of what you summed up just now.
Absolutely. It's you. Yes, it's the actual action of meditating and moving, but it's also the space, it's the action of doing that does something for you,
Yeah.
not just the actual thing that you're doing.
Right. Right.
That creates that consistency. Yeah.
So we don't have much time left.
Yeah.
If you have any last few wisdoms of wise words to share with those listening, what do you have anything you'd want to kind of put out there?
Yeah. I mean, I think the like what I just said, the last thing that I said about be okay with something, anything, and to, be kind to yourself in that regard. Sometimes people say be kind to yourself, and so we give in to not getting outside our comfort zone. That's not what I mean by be kind to yourself. What I mean by be kind to yourself, be okay with any bit of action, as long as be proud of some sort of action, instead of, like I said, giving up, or, something is better than nothing. I think that's, if I were to impart any bit of wisdom on anyone and how to move forward, because if you talk to anyone who is really successful, what will they tell you? Consistency is what got them there. A lot of people are like, I'm not the best at this, but I was the most consistent. And it applies to your health. And so in order to do that, I think you also have to be kind to yourself and love yourself in that regard. So don't ever forget to put some time for yourself every single day. That's important for mind, body, soul. Yes.
Hands in prayer. Namaste to that.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to include all your links below so people can follow you, reach out to you if they have any questions, or to sign up for your Zoom classes or consultation for any coaching that they might be interested in as well. And then I don't know, people can keep an eye out. Maybe we'll do something together virtually on Curito. So yeah, so we'll just wrap up here for today, and thank you so much.
Great. Thanks for having me, Jen. It's been so fun having this conversation with you.
That's all we have time for today. Thank you for listening to Curito Connects. For more Connects content, collaborations, and discoveries set to inspire you on your own individual journey, please head to our website at www.curito.co. Until next time, stay inspired, and thank you for joining us at Curito Connects.